Well, Ann Coulter, the best-selling author, great columnist, her book is In Trump We Trust. If you haven't read it, you should read this book. Big bestseller. In Trump We Trust, you go to AnnCoulter.com. You can get it there. You can get her new column. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. Ann Coulter, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Mark Simone?
Very good. Now, is it that President Trump and this administration has the worst messaging of any administration? DACA was illegal. It was going to get knocked out in the courtroom. He's saying, pass it as legislation. That's the only way to save it. But he's not getting that across.
Maybe because his entire campaign was that he was going to end it and we shouldn't give amnesty to illegals. I think that's been his point for the last 5 years. So I think really the problem isn't messaging. The problem seems to be the president. But luckily, somehow he knew that he needed to be kept locked in his office yesterday for the announcement and let Jeff Sessions make the announcement. So that part was good. But then when he started saying, no, don't worry, we're granting an amnesty. I don't know if you paid attention to Trump until the campaign, but he tweeted furiously when Republicans once before were trying to sneak through amnesty in the dead of night, how it was a loser, it was a disaster, it was bad for America. And then you may recall his entire campaign, his entire stunning, unbelievable, crush all opponents campaign, the main point of which was no amnesty. We're putting Americans first. And the policy is to end it. Jeff Sessions said the policy is to end it. And again, thank God, the president was locked in his office at that point. And then he comes out to Twitter and says, we've got to pass it. And if Congress doesn't act in 6 months, I will act. Well, okay. I guess you forgot the angel moms after all. You forgot Jamil Shaw, all the people you promised you would never forget. And you would put Americans first and you would not grant an amnesty. And do not be fooled, Mark Simone. This is 100% amnesty across the board for all 40 million illegal aliens.
But I'm for
DACA. Go ahead.
I'm for DACA. It's only 800,000 people.
Oh, my, no, it is not. No, it is not. It is 40 million. That is total lie.
It's mostly people in their 20s, and these are the bus boys.
That is an absolute lie. I know they bust your tables.
These are the guys that cut the lawn.
They mowed your lawn. No, we have plenty of those. We have plenty of those. And by the way, they're going to start charging more. Oh, my gosh, we've tried this before. It was a total disaster. This is why, unlike you fancy New Yorkers and Greenwich, Connecticut denizens.
Oh, unlike you farm girls from Idaho.
Yes, but I have somehow managed to put the country's interests above my personal interests. Legalized, they're not so cheap anymore. No, this was, and plus, which you lost. You lost. November 9th, we had a referendum on amnesty. I will explain further next week on why this is 100%. I'm sure we do at least have time before Congress acts. But with all of the cultural elites, like you, Mark Simone, desperate to have open borders and take away our nation, the one thing that's most important to most Americans is that we can call ourselves Americans. We did have a referendum on this precise issue, and Trump beat everyone by taking America's side. I don't know what else voters can do. Both Republicans and Democrats have conspired to pass amnesties, and they always pretend it's, just for this teeny tiny group of valedictorians. It is not. It is for all 40 million and any other illegals who can clamor across the border. I promise you 100% that is what it will be. I will give you examples if you want. And all three times, even with the media, even with the conservative media hiding what Congress was even doing, somehow the American people got wind of these three amnesties, called in, shut down the congressional switchboards. It was just 3 years ago the majority leader, Eric Cantor, outspending an unknown economics professor, Dave Bratt, 40-1, crushed him in a Republican primary. The first time a member of leadership has been defeated in a primary, and it was on the issue of amnesty. And now, if you needed any more proof, the American people have put this utterly implausible candidate in the White House because he was the only one who would take America's side on immigration. That is how he won.
No,
the media and Hillary kept saying, bringing up his personal baggage and Access Hollywood and the things he said about Rosie O'Donnell and his bankruptcies and his 3 marriages and his vulgarity and insanity and everything else. And the American people said, we don't care. This is the agenda we want. You can run Zippy the chimp if he tells us he'll build a wall and deport illegals. This is how he won. So my hat's off to whomever it was in the White House who locked Trump in the Oval Office long enough for Jeff Sessions to make the announcement.
Well, you can claim that's how he won, but if you read this Hillary Clinton book, you're laughing.
Wait, is it out?
It's coming out, but you're laughing. But she lays out 5 very specific reasons why she lost. And she really goes into detail. Do you know that Bernie Sanders started this crooked Hillary thing? Did you ever hear Bernie Sanders call her a crook? I never heard that.
No, that's weird. Because that is one of Trump's charms. He does know. It's funny. Everything the media hates about Trump are all the things I love about him. It's only when he stops doing the things I love about him, well, particularly his main issue that put him in the White House, that I become enraged and frustrated with him. But his mocking names for people were really excellent.
Yeah, and I remember Bernie Sanders got nothing but criticism from everybody that he didn't go after Hillary. All they did was attack him for not going after her.
Well, we did. The Democrats thought it was very gentlemanly of him when he said at that first debate, "I'm sick of hearing about the damn email."
Yeah, see, it was exposed right there. He could have hit her right in the throat, right on that one. Didn't do it, but. Hey.
Bernie is another one who, by the way, I liked a lot better when he was a socialist and then he became a liberal. He used to have to explain to the little eunuch boys at Vox that no, open borders, that's a Koch brothers idea. We have to take care of our own people. And the hilarious thing about the eunuch boys at Vox, you have to look them up. There's one guy in particular, Dylan something. You just got to see the photo. Anyway. They keep complaining about, yes, but if we allow unlimited immigration, it helps other countries. They get rid of their poor, and it makes them, the whole world a better place. And Bernie Sanders, of all people, the socialist, has to keep explaining to these eunuch boys, no, but we're a country. Wish China, the poor of China and Mexico luck, but we need to take care of our own poor. That is why Bernie Sanders is, talk about it. I mean, he's an implausible candidate too, and he almost beat the Clinton machine by, at least in many ways, running on behalf of protecting the American people. Unfortunately, when he became a Democrat to run for president, he had to drop his pro-American immigration position.
Hey, Ann Coulter, I've seen you do these book tours. You sit there and you sign all these books for free. You should learn from Hillary Clinton. She's charging $2,400 to come to a book signing.
You're kidding.
And take a picture. No, the cheapest ticket is $150, and for the $150, you don't get the book signed. You got to go to the $1,200 ticket or $2,400 to get a picture and the signed book.
I'm guessing this is not to benefit, Democratic clubs or charities. No. This is to benefit Hillary.
Yeah.
Because it generally does cost a lot to come see me, but it's because I've been hired to give a speech to raise money for some organization like a Republican club or...
yeah, but most of your book signings, and especially in a bookstore, you do that for free. I mean, you got to buy the book, but...
I don't do book signings in bookstores.
Oh, but
I only recently started doing them. No, you want an Ann Coulter book signed, book me for a speech. I give excellent speeches. When a book comes out, I'll usually do a couple around around wherever I happen to be.
Yeah, but see, the big authors, they don't have to do this. Like Nelson DeMille, he does like 2 book signings. They automatically just sell. But
Well, it's not that. It just takes so much time.
yeah, but Hillary,
and it's effort now with liberals. I mean, you have to have a battery of security guards.
well, that's true. The good news about this DACA. You see these Chuck Schumers crying on TV. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Hey, take the thing and put it as legislation. Try to pass it. You won't see guys like Schumer do that.
The bulletproof Democrats will be for it, but
they'll be for it, but I don't see them proposing it as legislation. You could do that today.
I think that. Oh, they definitely will. Oh my gosh, the Democrats get 40 million new voters in 2 years. That's the end of the Republican Party. The Republican Party could just rename itself the Satanist Party for all the likelihood they have of winning. Luckily, it'll probably be the end of the Democratic Party too. It'll be. Years ago, the head of Singapore said that he was restricting immigration because the problem with multicultural societies, multi-ethnic societies, as he said, is people stop voting their social and economic interests. They vote their ethnic group. And, man, do you see that in California. It's not – I mean, the Republican Party is dead. It's the way it will be in the entire country. There is no Republican Party in the entire state of California. But the Democratic Party isn't exactly, the Nancy Pelosi Democratic Party. It's the Hispanic Democrats against the Black Democrats. Soon it will be the Muslim Democrats. So the good news is both parties will be finished.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but we're out of time. But everybody should go to AnnCoulter.com. Make sure you sign up because you'll get the new column first. New column comes out tonight, right?
Yes, it does.
Her first DACA column, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's like Groundhog Day with immigration. How long do we have to have this argument?
No, but it'll be a good column. You won't want to miss this. And then
you won't want to miss it.
Follow Ann Coulter on Facebook and Twitter and get her book, In Trump We Trust. But just go to AnnCoulter.com. You can get everything.
And send a copy to Trump.
Send him a copy. And Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us.
Good to talk to you, Mark Simone. Bye-bye.
Take care.
I started talking about this on Wednesday, and I want to get back to it because it's actually gotten worse. To listen to the president's surrogates like Huckabee and Gingrich and to read Buchanan. Really? Is this some kind of a joke? So Trump is angry with the rhinos in Congress. Actually, I've been angrier with the rhinos in Congress for a longer time than he ever has. He's angry with the rhinos in Congress. And so he's figured out a way to influence them or get back at them. It's to lurch left and work with Schumer and Pelosi. Does that make sense to anybody? Let me tell you what's been lacking here. And I hate to say this, but I call him as I see him. Leadership. When you're president of the United States and you run as the nominee of the Republican Party, you're the leader of the Republican Party. You need to take charge and control the leadership of the Republican Party. That's how it works. That's what Reagan did. That's what all these guys do. The fact that Trump hasn't done that, but instead is at war with the leadership rather than trying to get them replaced early on, has been a fault of his, has been a failing of his. Nobody's been more critical of Mitch McConnell for a longer period of time than I. Nobody's been more critical of Paul Ryan in the last 6 months than I. That's the truth. I mean, McConnell's been obvious for a long time. I mean, the president went ahead and endorsed McConnell's lapdog candidate in Alabama, then attacks McConnell, then makes up with McConnell, and then works with Pelosi and Schumer. That's not leadership. It's just not. That's not how you take control of a party and push your agenda. While he's lashing out against the Republican establishment and the Rhino. You're lashing out against your own party? Well, take control of the damn thing. You're the president of the United States. But he hasn't worked on that. And all this talk that he's now decided that he's going to work with Schumer and Pelosi and teach those Republicans the lessons. What about we the people? What about the future of this country? What about the future for our children? Working with Pelosi and Schumer? They're very evil. They're evil. Now, President Trump broke his promise on DACA. Has nothing to do with the Republican establishment or the Republican Congress. He broke a major promise on DACA. And his key concern wasn't that it was unconstitutional. His key concern was that people who are here illegally should be deported. That's what he said. And that helped him beat the Republican field, and he beat these guys over the head with it. Now, if he had said during the Republican primary, look, I think what Obama did is unconstitutional, but if it were put in a statute, codified, voted on by the House or the Senate, and passed, I could support it and I would sign it as president, many of you wouldn't have supported him. And he would have had great difficulty, at least in this area of immigration, of distinguishing himself from Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or so many others who've essentially said the same thing. He said just a few weeks ago, if we don't get a wall on the southern border, he's shutting down the government. Well, the Republican Congress didn't flip-flop on that. He flip-flopped on that by cutting his deal with Schumer and Pelosi, who are thrilled. In fact, Trump is thrilled. He calls them back. After he watches the lib media, after he watches some of his buddies on Fox, he calls them back. He's ecstatic. He says, look at all the great press we're getting. Look at all the great press we're getting. Some people out there saying, he saved the Constitution. He's a real constitutionalist here in what he's done. He sold us out on DACA. He sold us out on this deal with Schumer, this continuing resolution, because it doesn't include the wall. And he allowed them to attach the Harvey funding to it. It should have been separate. That funding should have been immediate, in my humble opinion, with no strings attached. No lard, no pork. And there are ways to offset that. We have massive, massive wasteful spending, fraudulent spending in this federal government. How many times does the GAO and the CBO and other auditors, the Comptroller General's office, have to put out report after report after report on things that can be cut? They won't cut them. They won't cut them. Now he tweets late today that he sat around, he waited for the Republican Congress after 7 years to do something, to repeal Obamacare. So he's cherry-picking. He doesn't talk about DACA, where he's completely sold out. He doesn't talk about the wall, which he said he would shut down the government, completely sold out on that 3-month continuing resolution. He tweets out two things essentially today, late today. Number one, they did nothing on repealing Obamacare. And number two, kill the filibuster. Now, number one, let's talk about repealing Obamacare. Republicans were a disgrace, but the Democrats blocked them on everything. On everything. So why would you now throw in with the leaders of the Democrat Party who have undermined the American people, who've destroyed our health care system, who protect every syllable in Obamacare statute and the regulations? You're going to punish the Republicans by joining with Schumer and Pelosi? Pelosi, who are screwing the American people? These surrogates on TV, these columnists, they're not smart, they're not clever, they're propagandists. They're propagandists. Now he says he wants tax cuts as soon as possible. Well, we all want tax cuts as soon as possible. What's he going to do, throw in with Schumer and Pelosi? How will that work? Now Trump likes all the positive publicity he's getting. He loves it. He loves it. That's why he called Schumer and Pelosi and said, look at all this great publicity we're getting. And the New York Times, which is one of the favorite recipients of leaks from the liberal Democrats in the White House, says he's liking this bipartisanship stuff. So his defenders are saying, yep, that's because of the Republicans. No, that's not what a leader does. He doesn't throw in with leftists because the clowns who lead the Republican Party are clowns. How does that work? I'll teach him a lesson. Teaching anybody a lesson. He likes the positive publicity. That's what they said. Schumer and Pelosi, if any other Republican had done that, you would all be condemning him. You'd all be condemning him. So the answer is you fight the Republicans by lurching left. Now we learn Now we learn in a piece in Politico, another favorite leaking place for the liberal Democrats in the White House, that Trump has had Kirchner, his son-in-law, Jared, negotiating with Dick Durbin for months on DACA. Excuse me, it's Reuters. Number 2 Senate Democrat Dick Durbin has had multiple conversations with Jared Kushner and other top White House officials about how to protect the young immigrants known as dreamers from deportation. Now, let me hit it again. Is this president going to round up the dreamers and deport them? No, he's not, with or without DACA. Did the last President Obama do it before he pushed through a DACA? No. Did the president before that, George W. Bush, do it? No. Did the president before that, Clinton, do it? No. Did the president before that, George H.W. Bush, do it? No. This is a lie. None of these people are rounding up anybody, except, criminals. And even sanctuary cities are protecting them. But they're not rounding up little kids and teenagers or anyone 31 and under, which is what qualifies for DACA. And Trump's not going to do it. So that is a flat-out lie. Flat-out lie. But Trump said he would do it during the campaign to get your vote, to distinguish himself from that big pack. And more he's sounding like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and all the rest when it comes to immigration, isn't he? Well, what's the difference? He's telling the Democrats and the Republicans, as long as you codify as a statutory matter DACA, he'll sign it. He'll sign it. Is that what he said when he was running for president? No. What does that have to do with the Republicans in Congress? That's his call. He made the call. Not teaching anybody a lesson. Well, now we're going to, he's saying this will make it constitutional. He has the power to kill it. To make it constitutional by making it go away. But he didn't. He lurched left. On the debt, he lurched left. And I fear he's going to keep lurching left. Because this is what the media understand. They give him positive publicity. Now, in the end, as a matter of policy, it's a disaster. A man who ran as an outsider is now working with the quintessential insiders.
Alrighty, so I'm going to explain everything you need to know about President Trump's big move this morning to curb the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. This is President Obama's executive amnesty, and President Trump moves to sort of get rid of it, but sort of not, and we'll explain why this plan really doesn't please anyone. There's a better way to do it. There are a couple better ways to do it, especially if you would like to see immigration law enforced, as I would like to see immigration law enforced. My long-standing policy on illegal immigration has always been that the federal government should be working to remove people, not only criminals, but people who are not of benefit to American society, while leaving the people who are of benefit for American society to the back of the line. This has always been my policy on immigration. I've never seen why a blanket policy with regard to entire classes of people should be adopted. It's never occurred to me why it should be that everyone of a particular age from a particular country should get in, or none should be. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to explain why it is that what President Trump did today is not likely to please anyone on any side of the aisle, or to finish President Obama's executive amnesty. It was rumored over the weekend for the past several days that President Trump was going to announce an end to President Obama's executive amnesty. So let's start from the very beginning, a very good place to start, and that is what exactly was the executive amnesty in the first place. So if you go back to 2012, President Obama desperately wanted to win the election, and so what he decided to do was give a sop to the Hispanic community, as he viewed it, by basically granting blanket amnesty to so-called dreamers. These would be children of illegal immigrants who arrived as children. They weren't born in the United States. If they'd been born here, they would be citizens. But they were brought to the United States afterward, and they were like 3 or 4 years old or 10 years old when they came here. The restrictions were people who were under the age of 16 when they were brought to the United States and below the age of 31, brought into the country by their parents before 2012, granted new legal status. Presumably you had to be brought into the country, I guess you wouldn't get a permit unless you'd been in the country since 2007 for some continuous period. That was the basic rule under the so-called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. And then there was DAPA, which was a program for their parents, the Deferred Action for Parents of Childhood Arrivals. Okay, so all of that was put in place by Obama through an executive order. It never passed through Congress. It was not a piece of legislation. All it really was Obama giving paperwork to people saying that they could work legally in the country, and him calling it a refusal to prosecute the law. He said that he was doing this under prosecutorial discretion. His DOJ was not going to prosecute any of these people, and therefore he might as well give them papers. This was challenged in court, and it was basically struck down because the idea was it's one thing for you to say you're not going to prosecute folks. It's another thing for you to give them papers. If you give them papers, it's no longer a question of executive branch power. Now we're talking about something different. We're talking about an affirmative action by the executive branch without legislative approval. That's illegal. So DACA had basically been held up by the courts, but none of the people who had applied through the DACA program were being deported. And one of the things that happened because of all of this is a lot of people who were illegal immigrants went to the government, registered all their information because they were guaranteed a shot at essentially amnesty if they gave the information. The problem was always that if there was a situation where the next president was a Republican and decided to walk this back, now the government knew exactly where to find you if you were an illegal immigrant. Okay, so here is what Trump did. He had a bunch of choices as to what he could do on DACA. I'll explain what I think was the best choice in just a few minutes. But here's what he actually did. He announced that the administration would stop consideration of new applications for legal status beginning tomorrow. So if you were going to apply under DACA for legal status and a work permit, then that you can no longer do that starting tomorrow. Those whose current permits expire between now and March 5th, 2018, which is next March, can apply for a new 2-year permit. They must do so before October 5th, so they have to come along, reapply in the next month or so. Some so-called dreamers will be granted new legal status, others will not. But even after March 5th, which is the deadline for enforcement of DACA, well, that's the deadline where Trump says, okay, it's the drop-dead date, now we're going to start enforcing the law. He really says we're not going to start enforcing the law. He says we're not going to hand out new work permits or anything, but the Trump White House says it will not start deporting dreamers in serious numbers, but will continue to follow the Obama administration's focus on criminals. So basically nothing changed except for we're not going to give paperwork to people. And there's a little bit more uncertainty if you're a dreamer. Maybe Trump will deport you, maybe he won't. In all likelihood, he will not. Okay, a lot of this springs from a key ambiguity in how the right wing feels about illegal immigration and dreamers in particular. And this is a key ambiguity. Trump campaigned loudly and proudly on the idea that we have to have rule of law and these people have to go. It doesn't matter if you were brought here as a child. It's sad, but we as a country have a responsibility to fulfill the needs of our citizens before we start fulfilling the needs of other citizens. You shouldn't have come here illegally. Your parents shouldn't have. And we don't have an obligation as a country to take in anyone, right? That's not our responsibility. That was what Trump said repeatedly during the campaign. At the same time, Trump was saying during the campaign, and particularly afterward, that he wants to keep the dreamers here. So he had this sort of split message. Here was Trump just a few weeks ago talking about how he loves the dreamers.
Thank you very much. Sometime today or over the weekend, we'll have a decision. We love the dreamers. We love everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we love the dreamers. We love everybody. So he's got these conflicting messages. One is, I want to enforce the law. Two is, we love the dreamers. So here is the split in the Republican Party over Obama's executive amnesty. Everyone sort of wants the executive amnesty gone, but for two different reasons. Reason number one, it's illegal for the executive branch to usurp legislative authority this way. This is the position of Speaker Paul Ryan. This is the position of a lot of the sort of leftists in the Republican Party on illegal immigration. A lot of them say, you know, we sort of like what Obama did, but we don't like that Obama did it, right? Obama should have gone through Congress. We should have passed legislation. This is not something the executive branch gets to do on its own. Fair enough. I agree. It's unconstitutional. And the courts have largely agreed with that as well. The second reason that people disliked Obama's executive amnesty is because they actually didn't like the executive amnesty. Not because it was illegally done, not because it was done in piss-poor manner by the executive branch, but because they don't actually want amnesty for dreamers. This is Trump's most vocal base. This is people like Ann Coulter. This is people like Steve Bannon. This is people who were really on the Trump train from the earliest point, right? People like Jeff Sessions, the current Attorney General. These are people who actually would like to see a lot of dreamers deported. And this is crystal clear that there is this split in the Republican Party. So Trump now has to make a choice. Is he going to revoke DACA on the first grounds or on the second grounds? In other words, does he really agree with his own base? Does he really want to get rid of DACA and start deporting dreamers? It's pretty clear that he does not. It's pretty clear that he does not. And it's pretty clear from his policy that he doesn't. Because what it really looks like he's doing right now is he is saying that he's going to get rid of DACA in order to push Congress, in order to actually enshrine DACA, and then maybe as a sop to his base, give him funding for the Trump wall. So this is the trade that Trump is looking for. Trump is looking for this trade. He wants DACA to be replaced. Okay, not actually gotten rid of. He wants to see it encoded. He wants to see it enshrined. He wants to see Congress actually make Obama's executive amnesty the law of the land, not through the executive branch. He wants to sign into law the executive amnesty so it's just amnesty. Right? Trump actually wants that. But in return, he also wants the Trump wall. And he's hoping that that will be enough of a sop to his base. This is a serious problem. This plan is not going to please anyone. The only people it might please are some of the people who oppose DACA because of the manner in which it was implemented, but they're lefties on immigration, people like Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan might be happy with this particular plan, and in fact, Paul Ryan basically came forward and said, yeah, I think we're going to try and pass something now. But if Trump's legacy in the first year of his presidency is no Obamacare repeal, no tax cuts, no getting rid of the Iran deal, and we will pass a piece of amnesty legislation that is actually stronger than what Obama did, I think a lot of people in his base are going to be pissed, and they have good reason to be pissed off. So here's why everybody is going to be angry from all sides on this particular policy. For the people who are advocates of getting rid of DACA because they actually don't want DACA, because they want the Dreamers deported, Trump clearly doesn't want to deport the Dreamers. And the problem is that Trump has already signaled he doesn't want to deport the Dreamers. So imagine you're a member of Congress, and Trump is coming to you, and he's saying, listen, I'm going to get rid of DACA. I'm getting rid of the executive amnesty, and then I'm going to start deporting people. But if you want those people to stay, all you have to do, April, is give me the Trump wall. That's all you got to do. Just do it, the Trump wall. Imagine you're a Republican member of Congress now. You are in serious trouble because you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. If you vote to give Trump what he wants, your own base will crucify you for having caved on DACA. Your own base will probably primary you for having said that you are going to enshrine DACA. And if you don't give Trump what he wants, then your own base could go after you because you're not giving Trump what he wants. So Trump has put them all in an awkward position, right? And this is a serious problem for the people in the Republican Party. So what's their easiest solution? Their easiest solution is to do nothing, because they know that in the end, Trump actually isn't going to implement his new ban. Trump isn't actually going to deport all these people. So all these Republicans can just sit tight, stay out of the fight, vote for nothing, and then 6 months pass, and then Trump basically does nothing, and everything goes back to normal, and whatever. Right? That's the easiest solution. No Trump wall, no nothing. No legislation. Republicans don't want to have to affirmatively own the executive amnesty. They don't want to have to do that. But Trump wants them to do that so that they'll give him the Trump wall, and also because then it's not on him, right? Then it's not Trump's responsibility for not getting rid of the executive amnesty. It's all Congress's responsibility for not getting rid of the executive amnesty. So basically, Trump is kicking the can down the road because he doesn't want to take responsibility for getting rid of the executive amnesty in the first place, right? Trump wants to make a deal. And Trump's deal is not something his base is going to be happy with. And then there are the people who love DACA, and they're not going to be happy either. Okay, so I've already discussed the people who want to get rid of DACA, like really want to get rid of it. They're going to be upset because Trump doesn't actually want to get rid of DACA. He just wants to make Congress re-enshrine DACA and then give him the Trump wall as some sort of sop. People like Coulter are not going to be happy with this. And they shouldn't be happy with this. If they are, they're being disingenuous, because Trump is basically saying that he's not going to deport Dreamers. Okay, that was not what he ran on. Okay, then there are a bunch of people who love DACA, right? These are people like John McCain. They're not going to be happy because they're going to suggest, okay, well, if you're just going to reinstall DACA in the first place, why not just leave Obama's policies in place? Right? Why are we going through this whole rigmarole? Why are we putting uncertainty in the heads of all these dreamers who are going to get to stay in the first place? Why are you destroying the credibility of the party on this question? You're not going to get rid of these folks. So what exactly is the political move here? That's what people like John McCain are saying. And on the left, of course, the left is always going to claim that Trump is a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, even if Trump didn't actually change anything here. And by the way, Trump didn't really change much here. Okay, dreamers are not being deported. The White House says that they are only going after what they call criminals, not illegal immigrants. Criminal illegal immigrants, people who have committed an additional crime besides being here illegally. Not what Trump ran on. Okay, so Trump is not actually getting rid of DACA. This is very much like the healthcare debate. It's very much like Trump care. Trump was basically saying, I'm getting rid of Obamacare. He wasn't getting rid of Obamacare, and then no Republican wanted to go on record as having re-enshrined Obamacare, and so Trump care failed. This is almost the exact same thing. You can see the exact same math playing out. Again, because Trump won't take ownership of this. Trump was not willing to take a hard position here. He wasn't either willing to come out and say full scale, listen, I like the dream. I like DACA. DACA's good. So here's the deal. Let's just pass DACA. He's not willing to say that because he knows his base will go after him. And he's also not willing to own his own hardline immigration position, the one that he sold during the campaign, that we're going to deport everybody who's not here illegally, who is not here legally. He's not actually willing to take that stand. So how exactly does all this play out? Well, it plays out with nothing happening, basically, because Republicans are split on DACA. The chances that a piece of legislation passes here, a big piece of amnesty legislation passes with solely Republican support, is low. Democrats have no incentive to actually pass anything. Democrats want to run on this. There's a lot of optimistic thinking from people like my friend Hugh Hewitt that Democrats may jump on board and pass a piece of bipartisan legislation with Trump re-enshrining DACA. They're not going to. Democrats want to run on this in 2018. They love the vice that Republicans are now caught in. Republicans are caught between their base and the general public. The general public is basically okay with the Dreamers. The base really is not. That means that all of these Republicans are now going to be forced to go on record with either a very unpopular position with their base or a very unpopular position with the general public. Okay, this is bad politics. Now, the reason it's particularly bad politics is because there is a better solution. There's a far easier solution. Okay, this one was suggested by Byron York of the Washington Examiner, who's a big Trump fan. Okay, Byron York suggests there's a very simple solution here, and he is totally right. That is, instead of Trump coming out and having Jeff Sessions make a statement about getting rid of Obama's executive amnesty, instead, Trump simply could have used the same strategy that Obama used on same-sex marriage. If you recall, Obama's strategy on same-sex marriage was not to come out personally and endorse some sort of executive action. Right? That's not what Obama actually did. What Obama actually did was something very different. What he did was he waited for a bunch of states to sue, and then he said, we're not going to defend traditional marriage. We're not going to defend it in court. Right? I'm not going to make Eric Holder defend traditional marriage in court. And then the Supreme Court said, oh, well, there's nobody who's actually defending traditional marriage, so we'll strike down traditional marriage. Right? This is what Obama did with same-sex marriage. Trump could have done exactly the same thing with the executive amnesty. Like beat for beat, note for note. He could have done the exact same thing. All Trump had to do was just wait for all of these lawsuits against DACA to go forward, wait for DACA to be struck down, and then say, listen, guys, if you want DACA back, just pass a piece of legislation that includes funding for the Trump wall. That would have been his smartest move. He could have waited for DACA to be struck down, say nothing, keep his mouth shut, and then he could have gone forward, DACA would have been dead, and now it's up to Congress to fix the problem. Instead, Trump has taken this weird position where he struck down DACA on procedural grounds, but not on substantive grounds, and his fans want him to strike it down on substantive grounds. Trump would have all the leverage. Once the courts got rid of Obama's executive amnesty, Trump would have every bit of leverage, all the leverage, not some of it, all of it. Because then we'd go back to the system beforehand, and Trump wouldn't have even said anything yet. Right? Trump could have had a credible threat. Listen, there's no law in the books preventing me from doing this. I don't have to get rid of executive amnesty. Executive amnesty was illegal. And listen, we have to enforce the law. That's what the law is on the books. So guys, either fix it or go home. Fix it and give me my wall. Right? That's not what Trump did here. So this is actually really bad strategy. It's actually very poor strategy, particularly going into a midterm. And what it comes from is, for President Trump, I think, a deep and abiding need not to be the bad guy. I mean, this is actually one of the things that's sort of fascinating about President Trump as a person, is that Trump does not want to be the bad guy in any given scenario. He doesn't actually like firing people. For a guy who likes firing people and it plays the bad guy on TV a lot, he doesn't actually like doing the dirty work of punching someone. He doesn't actually like doing it. When he got rid of James Comey, he tried to put it on his Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. When he got rid of Mike Flynn, he tried to make it look like Flynn was resigning. When he got rid of Steve Bannon, he tried to make it look like Bannon was resigning. Like, every move that Trump makes is designed to shift responsibility to someone else. On this one, he's trying to shift responsibility to Congress. Well, he could have done that without even getting his hands dirty. But what he's doing by doing this so obviously is he's trying to posture for his base, saying, listen, I'd get rid of DACA, but this Congress, it's up to them now. I don't know. Right? By shifting responsibility to Congress, he's avoiding the responsibility of having to take a position. And that's not good, because without that presidential leadership, DACA will be enshrined. Okay, Congress will try to pass something. And you can see a situation very easily where Speaker Ryan, Mitch McConnell, they actually decide to put forward bills with Democrat support enshrining DACA, or they decide to let this thing go all the way for 6 months, and then Trump has the situation back on his hands. You can see Congress kick the ball right back to Trump, and then Trump says, well, and then we just go on the way we were before. If you're Trump's base, I don't know that you can be happy with this. Like, if you're going to be intellectually honest, I don't think that you can be particularly happy with this. And again, I'm the guy who wrote the headline a week and a half ago when Trump was talking about getting rid of executive amnesty. I'm the guy who a week and a half ago said that that was a good thing worth doing. But it's only good and worth doing if you're willing to enforce the law or replace it with a better law. It's not worth doing if your entire goal here is just to sort of posture about it and then go right back to the same enforcement policy that Obama had. That's not good, and it's certainly not a good policy if you want Congress to enshrine executive amnesty as the law. Right? It's not good on Trump. It's not good on Ryan. It's not good on McConnell. It's really it's laid out about as poorly as you can. I wish I could say that Trump was doing a beautiful job with this, but I just don't think he is. I think that he's unwilling to face up to the conflict inside the Republican Party and take a hard position, so he split the baby. Splitting the baby in politics is basically the worst possible strategy. And I want to explain about that in a second, why Republicans have a tendency to split the baby while Democrats really don't. I'm going to explain that in just 1 second. Here is the problem for Republicans. What Obama did, and he did a lot of it while he was president of the United States, is he shifted the ground. He shifted the ground. That's what Obama did. That's what Obamacare was. This is what Democrats understand that Republicans don't. Democrats understand that when you have power, you have to use it now. And even if it means that you're going to lose it for a little while, you change the nature of the playing field. So when's the last time Republicans had unilateral control of Congress and the presidency, and they passed a major piece of legislation that shifted the groundwork, making it nearly impossible for Democrats to roll back? When's the last time? Republicans had control of all three branches of government from 2002 to 2006. Nothing major passed. Nothing. They didn't shift the groundwork in any substantial way. Democrats had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency from 2008 to 2010, or 2009 to 2011. And in that time, they passed Obamacare, which dramatically shifted the groundwork. Now, Democrats lost 1,000 seats across the country. They lost the House, Senate, and presidency on the back of Obamacare. They didn't care. The reason they didn't care is because they now understand that they've shifted the way Americans think about health care. We now think it is government's job to provide you health care. Once we're in that world, Democrats have now won. They've now taken another area of territory off the board. Okay, they just took Casterly Rock. They may have lost a lot of troops to do it. They may have put themselves in a bad political position. But that bad political position is temporary. The change they made is permanent. Democrats understand this. Same thing is true of executive amnesty. By Obama moving forward on executive amnesty, he lost Congress in 2014 based on his executive amnesty. There's a huge backlash to the executive amnesty.